So the key thing to understand is that when it comes to health, most people only make a change when there is a big problem. Never miss 2 days in a row. I think the biggest mistake is they set a goal that is too big. You learn that you eat when you're stressed, you eat when you're thirsty, and you eat when you're bored. The fear of that pain is overpowering the desire for that change to take place.
TEDx speaker, the habit coach, helping people take control of their lives by building and sustaining habits, and the author of the amazing book, Change Your Habits, Change Your Life. Our guest today on the Settle or Be Better podcast is Ashdin Doctor, who's going to be talking to us about health and habits. So welcome, Ashdin, and over to you. Why don't you begin by telling us a little bit about your personal habit story?
Lovely. Thank you, Sakshi. I'm so excited to be here on your podcast. First of all, congratulations on starting a podcast, and that's an amazing step. So thank you so much for doing it, because I think we all need a little bit more podcasters around. So the way that the habits journey started was because I realized that, every time I wanted to try and make a change, I wanted to, improve an aspect of my life, I realized that it was very hard. I kept trying and failing and trying and failing and trying and failing. And I couldn't figure out what was going on till I realized that every time I wanted to start something, I was relying on this word called motivation. Right? Mm-hmm. You see people talking about motivation all the time, saying that, I was motivated, wake up, motivate yourself and do things. It's always that hardcore way of doing stuff.
Right.
And I realized that it's great to do this hardcore way, but only for like 2 days, 3 days. Apart from that, you can't do hardcore for your entire life, right? Because that becomes too much. So as a result, I realized that what can I do instead of this, wake up and try and slay the day kind of a thing. I realized that all I needed to do was remain consistent. All I needed to do was make sure that I'm doing something small every day that built up to something larger. In fact, when you were telling me about starting the podcast, I said, yes, but the most important thing is what? Being consistent. Right? So the same thing applies in podcasting or in health, in fitness or in your habits. It's that getting the consistency in, which was key for me, at least, when I started learning about habits.
Understood. And when you coach people, do you usually notice that there's a difference between how they perceive habits instead of how you want them to think about it? For example, let's take working out. Is the act of working out, say for an hour itself, a habit that you would want to focus on, or showing up for that workout every day, a habit that you'd want to focus on?
I love it because this is such an important one. Because whenever we talk about habits to people, they always think about habits as the unconscious or subconscious things. Like tying your shoelace is a habit. You don't know how you tie your shoelace. It just happens, right? The example I love giving is whether you put on your socks first and then you put on your shoes. So do you do sock, shoe, as in left foot, right foot sock, then left foot, right foot shoe? Or do you wear your sock and your shoe at the same time, right? These things we don't even think about, but they happen subconsciously, the way we brush our teeth. This is what people normally think of as habits. However, many habits are not subconscious habits. Like you said, going for a workout can't be subconscious. You can't subconsciously do your weight training routine, right? You have to very consciously be focused at that point of time. So instead of having the exercise part as your routine, maybe wearing your shoes in the morning is your habit. Maybe putting on your exercise clothes is your habit. And that's the way that I see it. So for me, my pre-workout part, which is having my coffee, wearing my shoes, putting on my clothes, that is the habit. Now, once I've done that aspect, I know that the workout is going to happen. Very rarely will I feel, nay, Ash, not today, right? But most of the time, you listen to your body and you say, today I'm going to definitely go and do this workout.
Understood. That was really well explained. I mean, that's something that a lot of people struggle with, that, okay, I have to build a workout habit. That means that, they just overwhelmed thinking about it in the first place, that I need to go there for 1 hour, I need to get out of my house and, be there, spend that much time. But that really eases it down for everyone.
And how did you start your workout habit?
I'm very motivated by my activewear. So that was one thing for me. I absolutely love wearing my activewear and showing up at the gym.
I think this is the key thing, right? Like if you enjoy that process, you're going to do it, right? For you, wearing that activewear, coming out, that is the part that makes you feel, yay, I'm enjoying this. And that's what the key aspect is. Fantastic.
Yes. So moving on to my next question, like you rightly said, that our habits determine what our future looks like, because right now what we are is a result of our older habits. Just like how we do some things is how we do most things in life. So if you want to have a bigger impact in our life, we might want to think about changing these smaller things in life. But how do you determine where exactly we are headed? Because for some people, they have a mixed routine. Like most days they will wake up, they will work out, they will have a cold shower, or they'll meditate, before having their 5 to 9 before their 9 to 5. But there are often those days that come between the week where they tend to wake up with a lot of stress, and all they can think about is work, and this whole 5 to 9 their routine is missed. So how do you determine that? Because not everybody tends to have this every day. So how do you think that, where is this leading up to? What is this leading up to?
Lovely. Okay, great. So I'm going to answer this in two aspects, in two steps. The first is to focus on the third golden rule of habit change. So you'll see in the book that there are golden rules of habit change, right?
Right.
The third golden rule of habit change says never miss 2 days in a row. That means you can miss 1 day perfectly fine. Nobody's going to have an issue. Ashdin doctor, your habit coach, is not going to come and give you one fatka saying that, why did you not do it? Right? Perfectly fine. You are allowed to miss that 1 day because sometimes life gets in the way. Sometimes you're tired. Sometimes you have to work on a presentation. Can't go to the gym, can't work out, can't follow your routine. No problem. So allowing yourself that 1 day is fine. Making sure that the next day, after you've missed that day, you do that routine for sure. We don't want to get into a cycle of missing the days, or we don't want to get into a streak of missing the days. We can do 1 day missing, is perfectly fine. For example, today, this morning, I had to wake up and work on a presentation. Right? Tomorrow I'm doing a presentation and I'm doing another workshop tomorrow. So I said that today, it's okay if I miss my workout. It's okay if I miss my morning routine, but let me focus on my presentation writing. It's a conscious choice that I took, right? Maybe last week I was feeling tired. Maybe there was a fluish symptom that was happening. And I said that no point going to the gym and working out when I'm fluish. I will just end up delaying my recovery. So you've made these decisions. So that is part one of this answer. Part two of this answer is that you have a morning routine, but you have something called an anchoring habit. This anchoring habit makes sure that you maintain your mental peace through the day. You maintain your sense of who you are as a person through the day. So, for example, your anchoring habit could be a gratitude practice, where you think of 3 things to be grateful for. Right? I'm grateful for you to have me on your podcast. Right? I'm grateful for the gym to take care of my body. Even though I'm not going to it right now, I know that you've taken care of me so far. Right? So in this way, what you're doing is you're still setting up your body and your mind for the day. For many people, the gym is that time when they feel great about themselves. However, the gym is a difficult anchoring habit because you can't go every single day. But gratitude, you can do every single day. So you have a anchoring habit that is like that, and then you're fine. Some people, I used to do this a lot earlier, which was I used to do my 4-minute Tabata routine as an anchoring habit. Every morning, I would get up, do 2 Surya Namaskars and that 4-minute Tabata routine, and my day would start. So in the same way, you can possibly have exercise, but not necessarily going to the gym. So you can have a 4-minute thing that you do 2 Surya Namaskars, 3 Surya Namaskars as a part of your practice.
Understood. Thank you. That was really well explained, and it really eases it down for everyone. So, when it comes to health and wellness, I've been a personal trainer, and I've observed how people, succeed in their work life, and they make it a habit to constantly achieve the goals that they have set. And obviously, one of the aspect being money and finances, but there's something in there about work that doesn't always translate when it comes to the health and wellness. Do you think that we tend to self-sabotage a lot more when it comes to health and wellness, and how do we work with that?
Lovely. So the problem is that very often we need to have a problem before we realize that we need to make a change. Right? You will see that clients who've had back pain and the doctor says that, oh, you can't do anything else, will now be more motivated to make sure that they work out to get rid of that back pain. Right? People who have knee issues maybe want to work out more so that they can prevent that knee issue from taking place. At the other extreme, you have people who relegate their life. Oh, I have knee issues. There's no way I can be able to work out. Right? It's because of a lack of information at that point of time. So the key thing to understand is that when it comes to health, most people only make a change when there is a big problem, right? Thyroid issue ho gaya, I got PCOS. I need to do something dramatic. Only then it comes to the forefront. I remember when I think about 15 years ago, 16 years ago, before I started my fitness journey, at that point of the time, anybody who goes to the gym was considered a bodybuilder. Right? It
True.
wasn't for health and wellness. It was, you want to show off. It was, you want to take part in bodybuilding competitions. What lunatic goes and lifts weights? That was the kind of attitude that was there. Did you realize about what lifting weights actually is about, right? It's about longevity. It's about strength. It's about strong bones. It's about making sure that you can take care of yourself as life progresses. So it's all these things that people don't necessarily realize this till an issue occurs. I didn't realize this till an issue occurred. So that is the way, we realize and finally start making a change.
Understood. And when you coach people, what are some of the common mistakes that you see them do when they are going into it and starting to build certain habits?
I think the biggest mistake is they set a goal that is too big. Okay, so the first mistake is that we always try setting goals that are so huge because we want to feel worthy of that goal. We want to make that goal party conversation. Guys, I'm waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, right? Why are you waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning? No answer. But we want to get to that because it has to feel worthy of our time, has to feel worthy of our energy, has to feel worthy of our name. And, it's more an ego trip than an actual change that you want to make. So the first mistake people make is getting the wrong goals that they need to set. Okay. Why do you want to wake up at 4 in the morning? Ashdin, I need more time to work on myself. Acha. That means, have you maximized the time that you have, or when during the day you're getting distracted with Instagram and WhatsApp, etc.? Right? You solve for that problem first before you go into something more extreme. Otherwise, people wake up and say, I have no idea what to do with my life. And that is the problem. So the first one is setting goals that are too extreme. The second one is not having a system in place that allows you to stay consistent. Okay, so not having a system in place that allows you to stay consistent. It could be something simple like my gym is 45 minutes away. That means it's difficult to go to the gym and come back. Right? You need a gym that's minimum 10-15 minutes away. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So you suddenly realize that there's a fault in the system itself. And then you realize, I need to start making a change in this. So when I start working with my clients, it's a large part of this is this streamlining of their systems that they have for the change that they want to make. That makes a big difference.
Right. Understood. Lovely. And I've seen something really great in your book that I've read so far. The sentence that, stress makes us feel like we are doing something productive. And, being stressful about our work or, when we are under that kind of a pressure, we feel like we are productive. And that often happens with people who say that I'm too busy or I don't have time to, build this habit or have these many habits each day. So how do you sort of deal with that, and how do you help people change that perception?
So this does not necessarily happen in my coaching clients, but this happens during my workshops in corporates. Because a big issue that the corporate people have is they're constantly busy, stressed out, running around. I don't have time. And as a result, the work never gets done or shoddy work gets done.
Right.
So whenever I'm giving a talk to these corporates, the first thing I tell them is, guys, understand that being stressed and being busy is not cool. Somewhere along the line, we found that it was cool to constantly look busy. However, it is not the way that work gets done. It is cool when we are in school. Okay, because that's the time when we stress and say, I had to study for 7 hours today. Right? And then during the exam, it is cool to say, I didn't study at all, but still then ace it after that. Correct. That is how we were taught how we're supposed to behave. And we take those same behavioral habits from school into our workplace. And when that happens, we think that being stressed, constantly worried is cool. It's like when you talk to entrepreneurs, they're like, I'm a struggling entrepreneur. Why are you struggling? What are you struggling for? Correct? Struggling is that sense of cool, like if I'm not struggling, I'm not working. If I'm not hustling, I'm not working.
Right.
Correct? It's that mentality that is there. And I keep giving the example. I said that, I work with the top CEOs of the world, MDs of businesses, owners of businesses. And I said, the one thing that I've observed is that they never rush for anything. It's never that they don't have time. They're like, when do you want to meet Ashdin? I am free. You tell me what's your schedule like, right? When they are moving from one meeting to another, they never run. They never rush. They always walk. right? And the idea is, can you create that kind of calm in your life? No hurry needed. Everything will happen because you have planned it, or you believe in your ability. Correct.
Right.
So these two things make sure that you are staying calm. Obviously, then practicing meditation, doing your journaling are supporting habits. But the idea is that never rush for anything from now onwards. Always walk in a calm, composed manner. Always be on time.
Understood. That's lovely. I mean, that's something I've personally also experienced in, when I was 18, 17, like that rush for getting into your first internship or your job, and, like being always constantly busy, like that's what you want to portray, that I am doing something. I am, going after my dreams or doing so many things at a time. But it really taxes your body and your mind at some point, and you don't really want to reach that point where there's no choice and you just have to do it. So, it's better that we begin at an early time.
Absolutely. And a simple thing like, your desk at work. I remember one manager coming and telling me, Ashdin, your desk is clean. That means you're not doing any work. So the mindset is only that, you have to look busy. But the thing is that actual productivity comes from clarity, not from busyness.
True. Understood. And when it comes to making new habits, building new habits, it can be a major change for a lot of people when it comes to certain habits. And like you said in your book, there can be two things happening, either a fear of change or a desire to change, right? Just like most of our decisions are based on the fact that are we moving away from pain or moving towards pleasure? So how do you deal with that? And, how do you come to a balance which would create, a healthy environment for us to build these habits?
I was just having this conversation with my dad today. Okay, so there are two habits that he's trying to work on, or rather I'm trying to push on to him, which is not the way that you're supposed to do it, but he's family member, so it's fine. The first one is to have him to start working out again. Okay, so he has the desire to work out, but is afraid of the pain that will come from the post-workout DOMs. Right. So we're trying to get him a trainer. And he's like, yeah, Ashton, you send me the trainer. I will speak to him. I'll speak to him. It's been 3 weeks. He's not done anything on it. It's because the fear of that pain is overpowering the desire for that change to take place. Right. So that is one very interesting thing that I was just talking to him this morning about. The second is having celery juice in the morning. So we're trying to do this, having celery juice as a family in the morning kind of practice. And I'm like, okay, I'll have. And instead of a glass, he's had 1 tablespoon. Why? No. Mine is a concentrated celery juice. Yours has water in it. I was like, now, right? So the desire to be part of it is there, but the fear of that it's not going to taste good is so much higher that, okay, fine, I'll just have a tablespoon instead of being completely into it.
So, and like you said in your book, that our habits can either be, short-term desires or a long-term focus, and that's what we should be working on. But how do you determine that? Suppose I want to build this new habit. Is this just my short-term desire, or is this something that I really want to focus in the future, and I want it to be a long-term part of my life? Because in the beginning, everything seems so important that, I feel very motivated about the next week. I want to wake up in the morning and I want to do that for the next few years. But how do you determine that? Is it really going to serve me in the long term, or is it just my short-term desire?
Lovely. The way to do it is first have a plan for your long term. Many of us don't know what we're going to be doing 5 years from now. And the chances are that life will surprise you. No matter how much you plan, it will do something else. But when you have a plan, you have a direction. Right? Do I want to become an artist? Do I want to become a musician? Do I want to become a public speaker? What direction do I want my life to go in? Do I want to be sipping pina coladas on a beach? Correct? Do I want to be living in a castle in Europe? What is the direction that I want my life to be? Do I want to be donating all my money and starting an NGO? What is it? Right? There are so many different directions, and you have to find out what is uniquely you, where your personality fits, and what is it that you currently desire, right? As your life and what it's supposed to be and what it could be. The possibilities are endless. So the first step is to have a dream in what direction that you want to be going in. Now, the next step is to make a plan for that dream. In order for parts of that dream to come true, and you decide which parts are firstly important, you might say that the holiday home is more important than the Ferrari. right? So you decide which ones are important and then you create a plan for that. And then you say, okay, if this is what I need to do, I need to be, for example, let's say take it as a financial goal, earning this much by this point of time. I need to earn this much in this year, this year, this year, this year. So you've made a plan for it. Now you said, but like, listen, there is so much of a gap between what I'm currently earning to what I need to be earning. What do I do? This is when you start looking at your habits and say, in order to be earning more, I need to spend at least 1 hour a day working on a side project. All right, great. I need to spend at least 1 hour a day learning a new skill set that I can be paid more for. Fantastic. Okay, that is it. So now what you've done is you've taken your end goal and you've broken it down into actionable steps that you can create short-term goals for from now onwards. And that is the way to start planning. So actually the biggest problem is that people don't think about their lives. They try living a life without thinking, right? They try living a life without feeling it. It's almost like you are numb. If I had to ask people, what did you do yesterday? They'd have to think about it because they've forgotten about it. How did you feel yesterday? I've forgotten about it. How did you feel this morning? I forgot about it. The point is that we're not conscious about the way that we're living. We're not thinking about it. And hence, if we start thinking about it, we can possibly start actually getting that life that we plan and dream about.
Absolutely. And that's a great way to, reverse engineer and chunk down our bigger goals into smaller ones and, achieve them. It's just always looking at the big goal and being overwhelmed that, okay, that's what I want to do. That's what is on your softboard or, on your phone that you see every day. But usually the plan is what we lack and, how to set those short-term goals.
Thank you. In fact, I've never ever created a vision board or I've never promoted a vision board as a habit. Right? Because a vision board, I love creating once a year. In the start of the year when I want to plan what I want the year to look like. And then it's like a Pinterest board, it's a soft board, and never look at it again. Because from that board, I've identified just the 3 things that I need to work on this year. And then you take that step and then you work on those 3 things. And because you've taken the thought and the time to think about them, that whatever you put on the vision board, chances are it'll fructify.
Coming to familial habits, like you mentioned in your book, it was something really interesting that I've read so far, because there are something that we do pick from our families, from our parents, and sometimes it's usually unconscious. I mean, sometimes we do mirror them and role model them in some things that we want to achieve. They might be, good habits. But at times we pick on things that we really don't want to. But in the process of that mirroring and role modeling, we do pick up from them, So how do you understand, first of all, recognizing that these are the habits that are my familial habits, and then breaking those habits and replacing them with new ones? So how does that process go?
Lovely. So the first thing that we do is we understand that every action or thought that we have was somewhere learned or picked up, right? If we think about money habits, because we've been talking about money habits, the way that we think about money has been learned. Money grows on trees, or doesn't grow on trees rather. Money doesn't grow on trees, right? There's always a shortage of money. Rich people are bad people. These are the kinds of things that we constantly hear and pick up. And these are the things that then become our mental habits. In the same way, we pick up physical habits. So homes that have to have dessert at the end of a meal will always have a dessert at the end of the meal. No matter what you do, you'll always say, but kuch meeta I need, for taking care of my mouth after this spicy meal. Right? So you'll always have that and you'll pick it up and you'll realize there's so much of our life that we do not knowing that we picked up. And the way that I like to think about familial habits is that we don't just inherit our parents' genes. Of course, we inherit our genes. My nose came from my mom. My hair came from my dad. All of those comes from different people. However, we also inherit their habits, right? The way that I use my fork and spoon came from my dad. The way that I think about sugar came from my mom. And it is like this that you start picking up all these habits, not knowing. And the whole idea of the habit coach and all the work that I do is to first realize that you first have to become conscious about your own habits and move from this subconscious way of life to a far more conscious way of life that you're living and creating habits consciously. Because once you create habits consciously, that is when you start living a life that is conscious instead of living a life that is your parents' life, that is your family's life, that is your friend's life, right? So many habits we pick up from our friends also, the way that we talk to maybe waiters, right? The way that we interact with people in college. All these things were learned from our friends because we didn't know And we
Right.
picked it up because we were trying to be part of the group or to mirror, for example. And these are things that we end up picking up, and we have to become conscious and then choose, is this still serving me or is it not serving me anymore?
Understood. Lovely. And this is also something that young parents can definitely think about, because now they can consciously become aware of the habits that they have and that their children are seeing. Because me and my mom always discuss this thing that in the Indian culture, most Indian families have this health and wellness aspect missing somewhere in the culture or in the family habits, because we usually see parents, grandparents, working out or taking supplements only when they know they have diabetes, or they have a blood sugar problem, something like that. It's not always there, from your childhood, that you see this happening in the family. And that's a great way to become more conscious about our own habits, so that we don't influence that with our children and other members of the family. So that's a great way to go
You and your
about
mom
it.
were working out recently, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's why, I
Correct.
mean,
I
for
saw a
me,
story.
working out actually came from my mom, because I've always seen her moving in some or the other way, yoga or whatever, ever since I was a child. So that is something that I definitely got from my mother.
Amazing. Please give her a high five from me.
And I read about how sugar was a major part of your life earlier, and a habit that you picked up from your family. But how did you sort of break out of it? Were you able to snap out of it, or were you slowly taking it out of your life?
No, so for me, it was a snap because I realized that I was on this health goal path, and I was with a friend, and she was telling me about her friend who was addicted to Coca-Cola, and she used to drink about 5 liters of Coca-Cola a day. All right. And she said that this friend of mine is going on a no sugar challenge. This is, I'm talking about 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. And I was like, what is a no sugar challenge? She's saying she's
Mm.
not going to have anything that has sugar in it for 100 days.
Wow.
I was scared. I was like, 100 days is a really long time. So I said, okay, I'll tell you what. Tell your friend that a stranger is supporting her and is doing the 100-day no sugar challenge with her. Okay. You don't need to tell her who I am or what it is or what anything like that. This was way before the Happy Coach podcast or anything. Nobody knew me at all that point of time. So it didn't matter. But it was like, tell them that a person's doing this with you for 100 days. And I started this 100-day no sugar challenge. Suddenly I realized how much sugar is there in ketchup. I realized how much sugar is there in all the things that I had taken for granted. Right? It wasn't just not eating brownies anymore, but it was now I couldn't have ketchup. I suddenly realized that beer had sugar in it. I was like, "Arey." I realized that no cocktails could be had in the evenings because all cocktails have sugar. And it was one full eye-opening experience. Now, remember, this is close to 10 years ago. Again, nobody thought about what sugar was, or was it good, was
Mhm.
it bad. None of those things were even a concern in people's minds. And it was so interesting. By day 30 or 40, I was starting to have nightmares.
Yeah.
Right, sugar was trying to creep into my life. So it would come as, I was at a opening of a restaurant, and suddenly I had a chocolate piece, and I forgot that I was on a no sugar challenge, and I felt guilty, and I woke up feeling guilty about the fact that I had sugar. Right? It was crazy. And after the 100 days, I went out with my friend. I told her that I want to eat a donut because I've been missing my Dunkin' Donuts Boston cream. So he said, okay, chalo, let's go and have donuts. And I took one bite, and it was just so sweet that I instantly got a headache.
Mm.
I didn't know what to do. I threw the entire donut away. The dramatic shift was so important because, we take so much for granted because we're having sugar so constantly that our sweet tolerance keeps increasing. So for
Right.
me, this was the big change. And through the whole no sugar challenge, I realized how my skin started glowing, how much my energy increased. And I was in at Everest Base Camp with my friends, and they weren't friends at that point of time. They were strangers, and they were telling me about, what are you doing? Why aren't you eating the cake with us? And I was like, no, I'm on a no sugar challenge. Can't eat cake. And they all made fun of me. And I was like, no, guys, you don't know how much of a difference it makes to your energy, to your skin, etc., etc. And when we came back, after coming back from Everest Base Camp, we were very, very close friends. And they joined me in the next 100-day no sugar challenge. So that is actually how these 100-day no sugar challenges started. And then it became a big thing during the lockdown. And
Right.
I've just started mine again as of 2 days ago.
Oh wow. I mean, I have done a 10 days no sugar challenge before. 100 days is
What
really
is
a
10
big one.
days? 10 days is nothing.
I know,
No,
I know.
but then you have to become careful about where all sugar is sneaking into your life from.
Right.
Bread is out of the question because bread is sugar is used to the ferment the yeast and all of that. So you have to start becoming very
Exactly.
careful.
Yeah, because like it's really like a drug, and your brain starts finding ways that you find sugar and you go for it, and you really it creeps into your life. That is very true. But
Chalo, Sakshi, you're doing no 100 days with me from today onwards, okay?
done.
100 days, huh?
Yes, 100 days.
Okay,
I'm
done.
up for it. Lastly, coming to food again. Food is memories, and it's a big part of our lives, our celebrations, our sad days, whatever you say. And I think I read it in your book right now, but about emotional eating. So that is one of the major concerns that a lot of people have. Even I have had that in the past. And whether we are sad or we are happy, we always turn to food. But sometimes it's harmful for us, and that's how binge eating, begins, and eating disorders begin. So how do we sort of disconnect from this emotional eating habit while at the same time maintaining a healthy relationship with the food that we have?
Lovely. There are 2, 3 ways of doing this. The first thing to understand is to decide what is the role that food plays. Is food celebratory in nature for you, or is food antidepressing in nature? Right? So some people who feel sad or had a breakup, they will sit with a tub of ice cream. Right? For some people, it is celebratory. That means if something good happens, I have to go out and celebrate with food. Correct? So you have to decide and figure out what is your relationship with food first. The second thing you do is you learn about probably things like fasting, right? Intermittent fasting, 1 day fast, 2 day fast, 3 day fast, 4 day fast, 5 day fast. And you realize what is your relationship with food at that point of time, right? Can you do a 3 day fast? Can you do a 2 day fast? What happens to your body and your mind more than anything when you're doing that fast? And it is not about fasting because food is bad. It is
Right.
fasting so that you understand what is the role food is playing. Are you bored, which is why you're eating? Most of us eat when we're bored, correct? So getting over that boredom kind of eating is so important in the way that we approach our life. With fasting, you learn 3 things. You learn that you eat when you're stressed, you eat when you're thirsty, and you eat when you're bored. Now, if you can deal with these 3 kinds of emotions, chances are, I think 75% of your emotional eating will go out of the window.
True. Understood. That was really well explained. Thank you so much for that. And that concludes our episode today. It was really insightful, and I'm sure everybody is taking notes with all the info that you've shared here today. And it's really gonna be a great takeaway for our audience and for me also personally. So thank you so much for that, Ashdin. And lastly, are there any thoughts or messages that you'd like to share with the audience as we conclude today's episode?
For sure. Thank you so much for inviting me. The thought that I would like to leave everybody is saying that this podcast is not the end of our interaction. I think we should continue talking. If you have questions, please reach out to me. You can connect with me on Instagram. I'm at Ashdin Doc. So just send me a DM. I reply to everyone and ask me questions. What are you struggling with? Always happy to help.
Lovely.
And do check out the book. Please do buy the book. It's called
Yes.
Change Your Habits, Change Your Life. Yay!
Definitely. So all the details will be in the description below. There's so much to learn from Ashdin. You can follow his podcast, his book, his Instagram, so many other platforms. So you'll find those details in the description below. Thank you once again, Ashdin, for gracing our podcast. It was really insightful, and thank you for taking out time today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
That was all for today's episode. I am Sakshi Pawar, and I'll be your host for the Settle or Be Better podcast. So stay tuned while we bring more inspiring stories your way. You know the drill. Subscribe to the Settle or Be Better podcast, like, share, and comment on our videos. And hit the bell icon because you don't want to miss the mind boggling health discussions we're about to bring for you. Why settle when you can be better?